The courtroom hums with quiet tension, a heavy, almost suffocating silence, broken only by the shuffling of papers and the occasional cough. Sunlight streams through the tall windows, casting golden streaks across the polished wood floor, glinting off the brass nameplate on the judge's desk. Kody Brown sits at the defense table, a picture of calm, or at least the calm he wants the world to see. His hands are neatly folded, his back straight, and his gaze fixed forward. But the slightest twitch at the corner of his mouth betrays the storm brewing inside. Robyn sits beside him, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Her fingers tap out a nervous rhythm, a low-key yet clear signal of the anxiety to which she desperately tries to keep a lid. She occasionally turns her eyes to Kody in search of reassurance, some sign that everything will be okay. But even in her quiet composure, there's a simmering tension, a barely contained frustration that has been building for months, years even, now forced into the sterile spotlight of the courtroom. Across the room, Christine shifts uncomfortably in her seat, her dark eyes scanning the gallery. A mix of curiosity and caution plays upon her face, wariness honed through a lifetime of navigating family politics and fractured loyalties. She leans forward slightly, as if trying to anticipate the next move in this high-stakes game, aware that any misstep or wrong glance could be used against her. Beside her, Meri's fingers clench around the edge of her notebook, her knuckles whitening as she scribbles notes in near silence. Janelle sits composed, almost regal in posture, but the faint tension along her jawline hints that she too feels the weight of what is about to unfold. Point. The hum of the audience ceases to a dead silence as the judge enters, his long, heavy robe sweeping across the floor with a swishing sound that demands attention and respect. Instinctively, everyone rises, the clunk of the courtroom doors closing behind him, resounding through the room, highlighting the seriousness of the moment. Kody's attorney speaks, but even words are far away, drowned out by the oppressive weight of the air. On paper, this is a property dispute, a division of assets, a disagreement over living arrangements, but the layers beneath are considerably deeper. There are hidden agendas, whispered arguments behind closed doors, and a lifetime of secrets hanging in the balance. First to testify was the Browns' longtime housekeeper, who worked for the family nearly 10 years. Outwardly nervous, she stepped forward and clutched a stack of papers in front of her body, as if for protection against the volatility of the courtroom. When she spoke, her voice was soft and tentative at first, sticking to innocuous recollections of who moved into which home and who had keys to which property. But soon, the story took a dark turn. She started talking about private conversations, clandestine meetings, and subtle manipulations that no outsider could ever have known existed. Christine leans forward in her chair, her jaw tightening with each word spoken. Though indirect, the statements cut squarely at her, questioning her position and influence within the family. Meri's hands dig into the edge of her seat, as if anchoring herself to the courtroom floor. Robyn's eyes flash, anger and disbelieving, lips pressed into a line that threatens to crack under the pressure. The audience, too, is silent. Every whisper and glance is magnified in the suffocating tension. The housekeeper continues to slowly peel back layers in the family dynamics that have never been publicly aired. She describes Kody's late-night strategy meetings with Robyn, discussions about who gets what, and subtle hints that not all wives were equal. The air in the courtroom feels heavier with each revelation, as if the walls themselves are pressing inward, making every breath a deliberate act, every heartbeat loud. Kody listens, stone-faced. Though the smallest flicker crosses his eyes, a brief hesitation that does not go unnoticed. Robyn leans slightly toward him, a subtle gesture of support, her hand hovering over his arm for a fraction of a second. Christine's body stiffens, her defiance rising like a shield against the narrative being spun in front of her. Meri's eyes are wide, glistening with suppressed emotion, as if trying to process betrayal, loyalty, and shock all at once. As the testimony deepens, more details emerge. Secrets about family meetings that were never mentioned, discussions about finances that were supposedly private, and the nuances in power dynamics between Kody and each of his wives. The air is electric with tension. Every new revelation lands like a silent explosion. It's obvious that what this family has hidden from the world for so many years is now fully exposed in the most public and scrutinizing setting one could imagine. Kody's attorney tries to turn the conversation around, asking pointed questions designed to neutralize the witnesses' claims, but the answers keep unraveling the carefully constructed facade. When Robyn interrupts, her voice rises, slightly in defense of Kody, filled with emotional fervor, but even she cannot mask the flicker that has begun to creep into her eyes. Christine watches every word, ever vigilant, ready to strike at any moment if an opening presents itself. The judge listens intently, occasionally scribbling down some notes. His eyes dart between the witness, the attorneys, and the family members seated at the defense table. There's a sense that the whole room is holding its collective breath, waiting for the next revelation that will shift the balance of power in this delicate, volatile family dynamic. In one of the more quiet moments, Meri finally speaks up, her voice barely above a whisper, but with raw emotion. She recalls private moments that detail emotional neglect, favoritism, and subtle betrayals that until now had never been spoken. It was as if every word, as uttered, cracked open the courtroom ceiling to let in light upon unseen fractures in the Brown family. Kody remains composed, but the strain is clear in the tight set of his jaw or the occasional twitch of his hand. Robyn's eyes well up with tears, not just because of the accusations, but from the weight of responsibility she feels to protect this family. Christine sits, rigid and watchful, calculating every single move to make sure her position is not undermined. The air is thick with unspoken questions as the session draws to a close. How long have these secrets been festering? How many have known, and how many have been kept in the dark? The judge orders a brief recess. A temporary pause in what has already become a tense and emotionally charged session. Outside the courtroom, the family members exchange glances. Fear, uncertainty, a quiet acknowledgement that today is only the beginning. And then, wordlessly, almost imperceptibly, Christine receives a small envelope from an unknown source. Her hands shake as she opens it, and the contents, the details within, cause her to gasp audibly. It is information which might disrupt alliances, redefine relationships, and upend the careful balance that has been in place for this family for years. Her eyes widen as she reads, and a momentary pause takes over her body, as if the words themselves have physical weight. The camera, or in this case, the narrative lens, lingers on her expression, showing the conflict, the shock, and the dawning realization that nothing will ever be the same again. Robyn notices her sudden distraction and leans slightly forward, curiosity and concern mingling on her face. Meri, ever observant, picks up on the tension, her brow furrowing. Even Janelle, the usually composed observer, senses the storm brewing. As the first part concludes, the court readies itself for the next salvo of revelations. But outside, the seed of chaos has already been planted. One envelope, one secret, one piece of information, and the thin veneer of cohesion starts to break. The courtroom opens again after the short break, but the atmosphere in the room has changed. The air is thicker, heavier, charged with anticipation. Each of the Browns walks back into their seats with an invisible weight weighing upon their shoulders. Kody's expression is carefully neutral, but the faint tightness around his eyes belies the storm brewing inside of him. Robyn sits close, her hand on his arm, a gesture to comfort. But her own nerves ripple beneath the surface. Christine does not look at anyone. She opens the envelope she had been given, her fingers shaking a little. Inside are the financial documents and confidential notes of Kody's secret moves over the family's assets, the very ones he had assured would be divided equally. Her eyes traverse the pages, growing with each revealing prick into the fragile veneer of family harmony. She looks up to Kody, her eyes wide with betrayal, the courtroom collectively holding its breath. The judge calls the session back to order and immediately brings up a former family advisor who had worked closely with Kody on these hidden arrangements. The advisor's testimony is cautious at first, explaining mundane details about meetings, schedules, and family agreements. But then, the tension begins to rise. She didn't know what she was signing. Christine whispers under her breath, almost to herself, but loud enough that Robyn notices and stiffens in response. The witness continues, carefully detailing how certain decisions had been deliberately kept from the other wives, leaving them in the dark about the financial and property arrangements. Each word lands like a hammer strike, reverberating through the courtroom and into the hearts of those involved. Christine rises to her feet as she can no longer sit. Her voice cuts clear and strong through the hushed murmurs of the courtroom. Kody, why weren't we told? Why were decisions made without the input of every wife? The room has fallen silent. Kody adjusts himself slightly, a measured breath escaping, as if ready to defend himself against accusations building for years. Robyn talks now, her voice emotional and imploring. Christine, you don't understand. Everything I did for the family. Kody trusted me because he knew that whatever I was going to do, it would protect what was best for all of us. The words hang in the air, but the tension lingers on. The courtroom is split, every word upping the ante of emotional pressure, every glance heavy with suspicion, resentment, and unspoken truths. Meri, unable to remain silent any longer, leans forward, her voice shaking but firm. I overheard Kody discussing the moving of funds without our knowledge. I thought it was just some misunderstanding, but now I see it was deliberate. Her words spark a wave of disbelief through the room. The judge, fingers steepled, pauses as the weight of those revelations settles in like a thick fog. The camera, now a panning narrative lens, scans between faces. Kody's cool veneer cracks ever so slightly, a pause, a tightened jaw, a flicker of doubt in the eyes. Robyn's composure falters, her lips pressed tightly together. Her face set, as though forcing herself not to release the storm building inside. Christine's anger is barely contained. Her voice grows sharper as she continues to confront the reality of what she has just uncovered. The witness introduces more evidence. Documents indicating that, behind closed doors, Kody had made promises to family members that were direct contradictions of the statements he has now made in court. The room seems to shrink from the tension, as every new revelation ratchets up the emotional pressure, turning the courtroom into a powder keg. Janelle leans slightly forward, her face no longer calm, but beset with concern. Kody, we need answers. We've been blindsided, and the truth needs to come out now. Her voice is firm, yet laced subtly with a quiver of someone who feels the weight of years of deception weighing upon them. As the cross-examination heightens, frustration boils over, and Christine erupts. Her voice rises, demanding attention. How long were we supposed to stay blind to this? How many of us were manipulated into trust while you made deals behind our backs? The courtroom gasps, the tension palpable, raw emotion. Even the judge seems taken aback for a moment by the intensity of the confrontation. Next comes the bombshell. Meri, her voice shaking, reveals a shocking detail she had kept secret for months. Kody, allegedly, tried to sway her into siding with Robyn in these financial arrangements, pressuring her subtly but persistently. The courtroom is silent, the words echoing like thunder, and for the first time, Kody's carefully crafted image begins to crumble under the weight of the accusations. Robyn reacts right away, standing to defend Kody, tears welling up in her eyes. He never meant to hurt anyone. Everything was for the family's future. Her desperation fills the room, but the cracks in the narrative are already there. Christine is not one to mince words and cuts through. For the family or for yourself? The confrontation escalates, tension spiraling, the emotional stakes at their peak. The judge calls for order, pounding the gavel, but the atmosphere remains charged, like electricity before a storm. The witness continues, speaking of subtle manipulations, hidden conversations, and alliances that nobody outside the inner circle could have suspected. The audience in the courtroom leans in, entranced, each revelation layering suspense upon suspense. In a quieter moment, Christine pulls out the envelope she had received before the session began and holds it up for Kody and Robyn to see. These are the real documents. Her voice is calm, but deadly. The room, silent except for the rustling of paper. Kody's face tightens. Robyn bites her lip. Even the judge leans forward slightly, sensing the magnitude of what is about to unfold. The testimony continues, with each statement from the witnesses unraveling carefully, the precarious balance maintained by the Brown family. Emotional exchanges erupt. Tears choke Robyn's voice as she begs for understanding. Christine's anger escalates, calling for someone to be held accountable. Meri's quiet sorrow escalates until it becomes unbearable, recounting moments of perceived betrayal and neglect. Janelle attempts to mediate, her calm but firm presence struggling to contain the emotional chaos swirling around her. Then there's this final revelation at the end. A former family friend speaks up, contradicting Kody's previous testimony and adding a new layer of intrigue. This witness states that someone close to the family may have been secretly recording interactions for years, catching conversations and private disputes no one knew would ever see the light of day. The courtroom falls silent. The weight of the revelation presses down upon all. Kody tries to answer, his voice faltering, the defenses carefully built up, crumbling under the avalanche of evidence. Robyn turns to him, her eyes begging silently, and Christine presses her advantage home, her words sharp and slicing. We trusted you, Kody. And you betrayed every one of us. As the session draws to a close, the judge announces a brief recess, but the tension lingers, like a storm cloud, refusing to break. Outside the courtroom, whispers ripple through the hallway, reporters scribbling notes feverishly, cameras catching every flicker of emotion. Christine clutches the envelope, her mind racing with strategies, confrontations, and the knowledge that the next session could redefine everything. Robyn, attempting to keep calm, leans in toward Kody. We can get through this, she whispers, but even she can't conceal the doubt in her voice. Meri stands away, her eyes locked on Kody, with a mix of pain and suspicion. Janelle's expression is controlled, but her eyes reflect concern as she speculates on what might happen next. And then, as the Brown family exits the courtroom, Christine looks back, locking eyes with Kody for just a beat. In that second, all the silent threats and unresolved tension are palpable. The dynamic has shifted irreparably, and the trust that once glued this family together starts to crumble. The courtroom fills up again, but the air is electric tense, suffocating, and full of anticipation. Every single Brown family member walks back into their seats with revelations from the session just finished weighing on them. Kody sits at the defense table, holding his calm on the surface of his features, though a slight tremor of his hand leaves out the stress bubbling inside him. Robyn's fingers fidget over her lap, her knuckles white from the tension that has been building up inside her. Christine leans forward, her eyes ablaze with anger and betrayal, fixed intently on Kody. The envelope she got earlier lies unopened in her lap, but the memory of its contents seems to stay in her eyes. Meri, sitting next to her, tries to compose herself, but tears glisten in her eyes, showing the storm that brews inside. Janelle sits composed, but subtle tension in her posture shows she is concerned about what is going to go down. The judge calls the session to order, and the first witness is Janelle herself. She steps forward, her usually calm demeanor replaced by the strain of years of suppressed emotion. Her voice is steady, but tinged with vulnerability, as she begins recounting private family discussions that have never been aired publicly. The courtroom listens intently, the silence broken only by the occasional sharp intake of breath. Janelle reveals scattered moments of favoritism, subtle manipulations, and secretive conversations that Kody had with Robyn through the years. The words strike like blows, coming out loud in this court. Christine's jaw clenches with every word, her anger palpable. Robyn, trying to defend Kody, swallows hard, her eyes glazed with unexpressed emotion, her lips trembling to maintain control over her emotions as the memories come back in painful clarity. The prosecutor leans forward, seizing the moment. Mr. Brown, can you explain why decisions were made without informing all family members equally? Kody takes a slow breath as the weight presses on him. Every choice I made, he begins with caution, was in the best interest of the family. His calm tone belies the tension coiling beneath the surface. Christine breaks in, her tone sharp and cutting. In whose best interest, Kody? Yours, Robyn's, or the family's? The room is silent once more, the weight of her accusation hanging in the air. Kody shifts slightly, his jaw tightening, his usual composure starting to crack. Robyn leans forward, tears welling up in her eyes. Christine, you don't understand. Everything I did to protect the family. And then more and more of these tense testimonies follow. Meri describes private conversations that she overheard, which Kody thought no one knew about. She talks of subtle pressures, manipulations, and emotional neglect. Every word is spoken with anguish. Her voice breaks as she describes ways Kody allegedly attempted to control her loyalty to try and sow division within the family. The courtroom is silent, aghast, as the weight of her words sink in. Kody tries to answer, but the words falter. His defenses, entrenched and confident a moment before, now seem fragile under withering scrutiny. Robyn reaches for his hand in a silent plea for strength and unity. But even her reassuring presence cannot mask the tension between them. Christine's anger mounts and her words cut like knives. We trusted you, Kody, and you broke that trust again and again. Then comes the turning point. A former family friend, a person who had quietly observed the Brown family for many years, is called to the stand. The witness is placid in demeanor, but the words explode like dynamite. They reveal that Kody may have been secretly recording private interactions, capturing intimate conversations and conflicts that were never meant to be exposed. The courtroom collectively gasps, the shock palpable. All color has drained from Robyn's face, her lips pressed tightly as she tries to process the revelation. Christine sits forward, eyes wide. Vindication and disbelief course through her. Janelle and Meri exchange a glance, both knowing that the dynamics just changed, that the foundation of trust has been irreparably altered. Even the judge leans forward, sensing the magnitude of what is being revealed. Kody tries to explain, but every word seems to stumble, then get discarded in the tide of proof building against him. First the documents, then the witness testimony, and now the possibility of secret recordings, storming upon him from all directions. Robyn's voice breaks, imploring them to understand, her desperation filling the room. Christine's defiance grows louder, her words sharper and more incisive with each accusation. It gets most intense as, out of the blue, Meri rises, unable to hold everything inside anymore. Tears cascade down her face as she recalls moments of isolation, neglect, and emotional manipulation. The courtroom is silent, every eye on her, every word resounding with raw pain. Kody's face tightens, his composure unraveling under the weight of the accusations. Robyn reaches for him instinctively, but the distance between them is palpable, the tension almost tangible. Christine stands, holding the envelope she got, finally opening it in front of everyone. The documents inside detail hidden agreements, manipulations, and decisions that Kody made without full consent from the family. She reads portions aloud, her voice steady, but filled with a quiet fury. Each revelation lands like a hammer blow, the courtroom reacting with gasps and murmurs. Robyn's eyes fill with tears. Janelle flinches slightly, and Meri's hands tremble as she clutches her notebook. The judge calls for a brief break to let everyone gain their composure, but the tension hangs in the air, heavy and thick. Outside, whispers of the revelations spread like wildfire, the press capturing every flicker of emotion, every cheer, every angry glance. Christine looks to Kody, her gaze an inch from his face, her voice barely above a whisper. This isn't just about money or property, Kody. It's about trust, and you've betrayed it completely. The session resumes, but the emotional energy in the room has shifted. One witness after another tells of private details, subtle manipulations, and hidden alliances. Every testimony adds drama and suspense. Kody becomes more and more defensive, his tone strained, while Robyn tries to mediate, pleading for calm. Christine becomes more defiant, her voice cutting through the tension with precision. Finally, the prosecutor presents a very incriminating recording of a discussion between Kody and Robyn about ways to manipulate other family members without those members realizing what was happening. The courtroom erupts in shock, disbelief, and anger. Kody's face pales a bit. Robyn buries her face in her hands, while Christine sits forward, vindication and fury coursing through her veins. The session begins to wind down, but the emotional fallout is evident. The courtroom is a powder keg of emotion and suspense. The Brown family members clearly look shaken. The judge then announces a brief recess, which simply serves as a signal to pause the tension. Each glance, each whisper, every movement covered in questions of who was to be trusted and who has been playing whom. What secrets are? The courtroom opens, but the air feels different, heavier, charged with anticipation, almost electric. Every seat seems too close. Every whisper amplified in the tense silence. Kody Brown sits at the defense table, his calm facade showing cracks more clearly than ever. Robyn is beside him, her hand resting lightly on his arm, but her eyes dart nervously to the front, betraying the worry she tries so desperately to hide. But Christine is stiff, every muscle tightened in expectation. She clutches the sealed envelope she has just been handed, her fingers shaking with the effort it takes not to open it. Janelle and Meri sit on either side of her, exchanging furtive glances, the acknowledgement of an impending storm. The judge brings his gavel down, and the session opens. But nobody stands up. The moment is too thick to breathe. The prosecutor stands, placing a stack of documents on the table. Ladies and gentlemen, the evidence we are about to reveal will show that the Brown family has been operating under false pretenses, and that some decisions were intentionally kept from certain family members. The courtroom falls silent. Even the judge leans forward, sensing the magnitude of the statements. The first bombshell comes forth in the form of Christine, who stands up and speaks in a voice that is steady but icy. She starts reading from the envelope. Financial transfers, concealed meetings, and strategic decisions that Kody had kept secret from everyone except Robyn. Every sentence was a revelation, every line unraveling a well-hidden betrayal of years. Kody sat frozen, the flicker of panic crossing his eyes, while Robyn's lips pressed tightly together, a futile effort to hold on to composure. Meri gets up, trembling, her voice hoarse as she recounts personal moments of manipulations she experienced at Kody's hands. She spoke of nocturnal talks, where she felt compelled to take sides of one wife against another, and of the emotional load carried well in knowing that her loyalty was being tried in the dark. The courtroom listens in stunned silence. The tension can be felt. Each revelation is like another nail into the coffin of trust. Janelle follows next. Her voice is calm but firm, carrying authority and precision. She lays out details of meetings where Kody allegedly sought to sway opinions and manipulate outcomes, hiding his intentions under a veil of concern and family unity. Every eye in the courtroom flicks between Kody, Robyn, and Christine as she speaks, the drama rising with each sentence. Kody finally speaks, his voice calm but brittle. "I did what I thought was best for the family," he says. But even his words fail to carry conviction. Christine steps forward, cutting him off with a searing question. "Best for whom, Kody? Yourself? Or Robyn?" The courtroom collectively holds its breath. Robyn's face pales at this, and even Janelle flinches slightly at the accusation. The prosecutor recalls the former family friend to the stand once more. This time, it's even more incriminating. He may have secretly recorded private interactions, documenting arguments, confessions, and decisions that no family member had ever agreed to. The courtroom gasps in shock. Robyn puts her hand over her mouth, trying not to audibly react. Christine leans forward, narrowing her eyes in vindication. Meri slowly shakes her head as tears well up and the reality of the situation settles in. Then, the most bombshell moment in the session comes. The prosecutor reveals a recording of a conversation between Kody and Robyn, in which they discuss manipulating family members without their knowledge. The audio plays, and the words just hang in the air, like smoke, filling every corner of the courtroom. Kody's composure falters, his eyes darting nervously. Robyn struggles to maintain her composure, Christine's anger and disbelief palpable, while Janelle leaned back in her chair, taking it all in, the tension, and Meri's emotional collapse evident as she buries her face into her hands. The courtroom is a powder keg. Voices rise, emotions surge, and the weight of betrayal presses down on everyone present. Even the judge struggles to maintain order, rapping the gavel repeatedly. Kody tries to answer, but the words come out fragmented and unconvincing. Robyn steps forward, her voice trembling in defense of her husband. He never meant for it to go this far. Everything was done for the family. Christine snaps back, cutting her off with sharp precision. For the family, or for your own benefit? Meri talks again and repeats the private conversations in which she felt herself being coerced into taking the side of Robyn and Kody, adding layers of emotional manipulation and hidden pressures. With each revelation, the amount of suspense grows, piling personal drama onto the legal confrontation. The audience can almost feel the emotional strain that is radiating off the courtroom walls. It escalates further when new evidence is presented, documents reflecting the transfers of assets and personal belongings that Kody had never mentioned to the other wives. The implications are very clear: favor, secrets, and perhaps even manipulation designed to separate the family. Robyn's hand shakes as she reaches for Kody's arm, while Christine glares at him, her lips pressed tightly together in restrained fury. Janelle and Meri exchange glances, noting the magnitude of betrayal. This testimony continued to mount, now intertwined with recorded and written documents of past conflicts. High drama unfolded in the courtroom, each revelation heightening the stakes. Kody tries to explain, but given the mounting evidence and blatant inconsistencies in his statements, his credibility begins to erode. First, Robyn tries to intervene and plead for some degree of understanding. Christine and Meri continue to press the truth until there is absolutely no wiggle room left. By mid-session, the courtroom is a powder keg ready to explode. Every look, every whispered word speaks of betrayal, suspicion, and unresolved tension. The seemingly cohesive Brown family of earlier now appears fractured under the legal pressure. Every wife's motive, every fear and frustration is openly exposed before all. Finally, the prosecutor produces a bombshell of a finale for the day. A witness confirms that some of Kody's actions were premeditated attempts to influence alliances within the family, using secrets as leverage to gain the upper hand. The courtroom is in shock. Robyn pales. Christine leans forward with a mix of triumph and rage. Meri shakes her head in disbelief, and Janelle's eyes widen slightly. Even the usually stoic judge looks taken aback, if only for a moment, at the enormity of what has been divulged. As the session draws to a close, the judge calls for a recess, but the emotional tension lingers like smoke. Every member of the Brown family is visibly shaken. The courtroom a battleground of emotion, revelation, and suspense. Outside, whispers ripple through the halls, reporters feverishly taking notes, cameras capturing every expression. Christine clutches her envelope tightly, while Robyn leans towards Kody, trying to offer support, though the distance between them is palpable. Today, the courtroom feels heavier, almost electric with tension. Each of the Browns walks in with a weight upon their shoulders, emotions brimming, nerves frayed. Kody sits at the defense table, his veneer of calm cracking slightly as he senses the storm gathering around him. Robyn is beside him, hand lightly brushing his arm in an attempt to steady herself. But the subtle trembling in her fingers betrays her unease. Christine leads the way into the room, eyes sharp, scanning every corner. On her lap, the envelope from yesterday remains unopened, but what was written inside has already sparked a fire in her brain. Her eyes rest on Kody, hot with the weight of betrayal, hurt, and pent-up anger released. Sitting to her right, Meri is silent. The redness of her eyes indicated tears she had managed to conceal yesterday. Composed as usual, Janelle steals a glance or two in Kody's and Robyn's direction, her expression a mask of concern and apprehension. The judge raps the gavel down, and the session starts. Silence, like a thick fog, pervades the atmosphere. The weight of the sessions that have gone on thus far, the revelations, the underhandedness, the documents, the recordings, threatens to crush all present. The air is stifling, every heartbeat a jackhammer, every whisper an echo in the taut room. It's now the turn of the first witness, a hitherto reclusive family friend, to testify against him. Deliberate, measured, and damning, the testimony opens by showing that Kody had not only manipulated financial decisions, but also deliberately attempted to sway loyalties among the wives, carefully orchestrating alliances and concealing information to maintain control. The courtroom stands in a mixture of shock, unbelief, and rising anger as he reveals this. Robyn pales. Christine sharply leans forward, her eyes fixed on him. Meri's hands shake as she grasps the edge of her chair. Christine finally rises, holding the envelope, and starts reading the incriminating evidence aloud. With each line comes hidden conversations, secret transfers, and manipulations that Kody had orchestrated without full transparency. Gasps echo in the courtroom with each revelation. Kody's hands slightly tremble as he readjusts his tie, trying to keep composure, but the cracks in his armor are visible. Robyn instinctively reaches for him, her own face pale in shock. Meri can no longer remain silent. She rises, voice shaking but resolute, recounting the emotional manipulations she endured. She speaks of moments when she felt coerced, misled, and isolated from the rest of the family, of Kody using subtle pressures to ensure compliance. The audience can almost feel the weight of her words, the years of frustration and hurt boiling over into the courtroom. Janelle is the next one called. Her testimony, though calm, is forceful, as she delineates, with clarity, Kody's behind-the-scenes attempts to control what people think and do without transparency. She explains how this caused rifts between the wives, tested loyalties, and how, over time, trust was eroded. Every word lands with precision, each revelation adding layers of tension and conflict. Kody finally speaks up, his voice calm but fragile. "I only acted in the best interest of the family," he says. Still, there is a lack of conviction in his voice, and the slight cracks in his tone are picked up by the courtroom. Christine's voice rises sharply. "Best interest? For whom, Kody? Yourself? Robyn? Or all of us?" The courtroom hangs on her every word. Robyn's eyes glisten as she tries to defend Kody, and her voice shakes. "We only wanted to protect the family," she pleads. The tension rises when the prosecutor reveals an audio recording of Kody and Robyn, discussing how to change family members without the other family members knowing. The recording is played, and the words sound like thunder in the room. The calm exterior of Kody crumbles. His eyes widen, and he swallows hard. Robyn buries her face in her hands, unable to control herself. Christine leans forward, her gaze pointed and unyielding. Meri sobs softly, and Janelle lets out a sharp breath as she takes on board the heavy emotion. As the session goes on, every member of the Brown family is pushed to their limits. Christine asks Kody about the issues, her voice slicing like a knife. "For how long were we supposed to be blind? How many times did you play with our trust?" Kody falters with answers, his prepared statements crumbling under the sharp onslaught. Robyn tries to interject, begging for understanding, but the attention of the courtroom is nailed to the unfolding truth. Meri's emotional testimony ramps up even higher. She tells of private moments, intimate discussions, and subtle pressures that outline the depth of Kody's manipulations. The tension, in and outside the courtroom, builds with each word spoken. With every single accusation, comes layers and layers of complexity, adding to a web of secrets and betrayals that don't seem possible to unknot. The judge tries momentarily to restore order, but the emotional energy is too high to contain. The courtroom feels as if it will erupt at any moment, the Brown family's relationships exposed in raw, unfiltered detail. Kody tries to defend himself, but the discrepancies in his statements, coupled with the damning evidence, make his words fragile and unconvincing. Then comes the final bombshell of the session, and it is this. The prosecutor introduces evidence of a hidden agreement Kody made with Robyn, an agreement that absolutely bypassed the other wives. The implications are explosive. Robyn's hand is shaking as she looks over at Kody. Christine's face is etched in shock and anger. Meri buries her face in her hands once more. Janelle sits, her jaw clenched, processing the weight of it all. Tensions are at their highest. Kody's defenses crumble. Robyn's emotional pleas are drowned out by the storm of revelations. And Christine seizes every opportunity to confront the truth. The courtroom is a battleground. Every glance, every whisper, every tremor of emotion magnified by the raw power of the unfolding drama. Finally, the judge calls for a short recess, but the emotional and psychological weight does not dissipate. The Brown family members get up, each step heavy with the gravity of the truths laid bare. Whispers fill the hallways outside the courtroom, the press capturing every reaction, every tear, every flinch. Christine clutches the envelope, her mind racing with strategies, confrontations, and the knowledge that the next session could redefine everything. Robyn leans into Kody, trying to give him support, though the distance between them is palpable. Meri remains silent, absorbing the shock. On the surface, Janelle acts cool, but she is concerned, anticipating what's next.